So far we've installed our microservice and a service and an ingress to act as a router to get to the microservice from the outside of the cluster. In this video we're going to look at putting everything into a single namespace. So namespaces are just like namespaces and other things, or packages in Java. They're like folders, and if we have our service in its own namespace, there's a few benefits. It's kind of optional to do, but it allows you to be able to delete everything in one go by just deleting the namespace, or we can do debugging in the namespace so we can get the events that are going on in that namespace. And in the next video we're going to look at some troubleshooting steps where we'll cover that. But for now, how do we create a namespace? So like with most of the things, we do it with YAML. We can define a namespace at the top of our section here. So we have a namespace. I'm going to call it MSHW namespace and label MSHW namespace. 3 lines again to separate the YAML section, and then for the deployment I'm going to put namespace MSHW NS. I'll do the same for service and the same for ingress. So we've just added the namespace definition there, very simple, and added MSHW NS namespace for the deployment, the service and the ingress. So really everything that we're installing is going to go into that namespace. Now if I wanted to delete what we've installed so far, I can do kubectl get all, and there we have our deployment and our service. Now I need to do kubectl delete deployment and MSHW deployment, which was the name that we gave it there. So that will delete the deployment. Next I need to delete the service, MSHW SVC for service as defined there. And we still have the ingress remaining, so I need to do kubectl delete ingress MSHW ingress as it was defined there. So that's deleted. Now if I do kubectl get all, we're back to the beginning state. Now I'm going to deploy my MSHW YAML again with the namespace defined. kubectl apply f MSHW YAML, and now we've created everything again. But now if I do kubectl get all, we can't see anything because we've done it in our namespace. So kubectl get namespaces, and we can see, just like the way ingress nginx was in its own namespace, now our application is in the MSHW NS namespace. So now if I do kubectl get all, I need to do -n and the name of our namespace. Now I'm just going to wait for our ingress to be up and running, so I need to do kubectl get ingress namespace MSHW namespace and watch it again. It's already got the address, so I can now visit the application. So bring up a new browser and everything should be working as it was before, but now we're in the namespace. Now one thing I like about this is we can get events that go on inside a particular namespace, and I'll cover this in the next video. But if I do kubectl get ev namespace MSHW namespace, we can see the things that have happened in that namespace. So we're not getting all things that are going on which are not relevant to us, because we're just looking at what's going on in the namespace that we created. Also, if I wanted to delete everything that we've installed, I could just do kubectl delete namespace MSHW.namespace, and it will just delete everything. So that's deleting the deployment, the service, the ingress and the namespace itself. So we're just getting back to the beginning with just one command. I'm just going to apply everything again and show you a tool called Kubens. So Kubens and also kubectx is power tools for kubectl. So with this we can, I'm not sure whether I should pronounce it Kubens or kubeNS, but it's really like a CD as we do in folders. We can CD into namespaces. So I've installed it by downloading it with Git, and I've also added an alias, and I've also added an alias in bashrc to redirect to where I pulled the Git image. So now I can do Kubens. So if I just type Kubens, it shows me that the default namespace is currently active. And if I do, I've actually done a alias for kubectl as well, so I can just do k for that. So I can do k get all, and we're in the default namespace. But if I do Kubens mshw namespace, I'm now in the active namespace mshw, and if I do kubectl get all, I'm in that namespace. So there's a few things to know about namespaces. Not all of the component types in Kubernetes go in namespaces. For example, volumes don't go in a namespace, they just exist outside of the namespace. And there's a few considerations when we get services to talk to each other. If they're in other namespace, we have to access them in a slightly different way. But we'll have a look at that when we build more microservices into our application. So that's namespaces in a nutshell, just a quick video there. In the next video we're going to have a look at some troubleshooting steps, because if you're following along it may not be going quite as smoothly for you as I'm making it look here. So we'll have a look at some things we can do to troubleshoot if things go wrong. So thanks for watching.